My wife has always been wanting some more storage space in the laundry room. I need some 1x8s and 1x3s. Then I need to measure in between the washer and dryer to get the width. And then I need to get the height. So let's start measuring and cutting boards. Once we get the front and the back cut, these are the longer boards, we're going to put the bottom on. I like to use my little brad nailer. We're going to put the middle shelf on. Now, every shelf is going to need a little barrier to keep everything in. We're going to put those on the inside. Once I put that first side piece in on the bottom shelf, I'm going to turn it over, then I'm going to put the next one on. Once we get that on the bottom, we're going to put some wheels. Now for the top, that's the last board we got. We're going to put a hinge on the back. Once we get that hinge on, look at that, I've got a little hiding shelf right there. So run some 80 grit, then up to 220, run it up and down the sides and make it look nice, and then you can either paint or put your favorite stain on.
We're going to quickly sweep the floor, and we're going to sand the floor with some 220 sandpaper. We're going to clean the floor with TSP, trisodium phosphate. Okay, I've got my Wise-Owl stain eliminating primer. I'm using a dense foam roller so I give a real smooth finish. Okay, we let our primer dry overnight. We're ready for our base coats. We're going to be applying 2 coats of Wise-Owl 1 Hour Enamel Antique Villa, and now I'm going to mask off the baseboards. I'm going to use a little spray adhesive on this stencil. Center your stencil on the tile. Because my tile floor has a slight texture to it, I'm choosing to use a brush. It's going to give me a tighter edge than using a roller. It's time to pull the masking tape, do a few touch-ups, and apply 3 coats of top coat to protect this beautiful floor. I'll be using Wise-Owl 1 Hour Enamel Clear Satin as my top coat.
Grab some cheap plastic bins from your local Dollar Tree. Take your bins outside and spray paint them thoroughly. I used a nice metallic copper color for them. Now grab some thick rope, string, or twine to place on the bottom of the bins. Using hot glue, attach the rope to the bottom of the bin for a more elevated look.
I've got a laundry problem, too much to do and nowhere to store it. So I'm gonna head down to my hardware store and I'm gonna grab some good lumber. We're gonna mark them, then I'm gonna cut them. We're gonna set 2 of these legs aside, take these 2 legs, separate them, and then we're gonna start building a box. As you can see, I'm gonna use glue, put the board on top, and I'm just gonna use little brad nails to hold it in place. And then once we get the 2 sides built, we're gonna measure the basket, build the top and the bottom, again using the 1x3s. As you can see, the box is starting to form. Now it's time to build the top. Again, using 1x3s on the top, I'm gonna do 5 of these. Now it's time to build the racks and the sliders that the baskets will go on. I'm gonna put some glue down again along the sides. We'll put this in place again with glue and using the brad nails to hold it in place. See that little bevel I put on the side? That's so it doesn't catch the basket. This is where we can put little letterings or signs on. Using the brad nail, hold it in place. It's time to sand. I've got a secret. We're not gonna use stain on this. I'm gonna use something different, but don't be intimidated. We're gonna use a torch. That's right. We're gonna burn this wood and give it a special look.
Run on over to the Dollar Tree and grab one of these blue baskets. What can you do if you don't have enough cabinet space? Grabbed a ruler and I'm marking where exactly I want each of these bins to go on my wall. Now for stability, you can choose exactly how you'd like to adhere these baskets to your wall, adding 2 screws to each basket or possibly 4. Now that all the baskets are up, it's time to load them up. While I was at the dollar store, I grabbed one of these over the cabinet door hangers and they hook nicely into the holes onto the baskets. For this hack, you're going to need some hooks. I'm going to grab some bins that I found at the dollar store and I'm going to hook them onto the hooks. So now I can separate out my darks from my whites. I'm going to take an over the door hanging rack and I'm going to hook it over the top of my door. This is perfect for ironing boards. I'm going to grab my iron and I'm also going to hook it onto the over the door hanging rack. And it doesn't take any cabinet or counter space or shelf space.
I'm not a fan of doing laundry, and when it comes to folding clean clothing, there's not enough room in my laundry room. I began by cutting 1 by 12 inch pine to make the storage cabinet. I made the outside box first. I used a Kreg jig to make pocket holes to join my pieces together. This, along with wood glue, would keep everything in place. I measured for my shelves, marking and cutting them to fit, and screwed them in place. Now that the cabinet was made, it was time to make the table. I used 1/2 inch MDF, which I measured and cut to size. I attached a piece of 1 by 2 to the bottom of the MDF with glue and brads. I also made the legs for the table out of 1x2s. I painted the entire cabinet gray using paint from another project. For the back of the table, I used chalkboard paint and applied 2 coats. When it was dry, I flipped the table over and applied wallpaper to the other side. This would be my tabletop. To attach the table to the cabinet, I used a piano hinge. I screwed it to the wallpaper side of the tabletop and the bottom front of the cabinet. I used another hinge and attached it to the top of the blackboard side and to the top of the legs. For the back of the cabinet, I attached a 1/4-inch piece of plywood. The cabinet was very heavy, so I used a French cleat as my hanger. There are 2 pieces, and one screws into the back of the cabinet, and then one screwed into the wall. Where I wanted to place the cabinet, there were no studs available, so I drilled holes and put in plastic anchors. To keep the table attached to the cabinet, I fastened a heavy-duty magnet to the front.